Most of us, we're consumers. We buy our tech, we use it, and eventually we replace it. But what about the people who see a finished product and just think, I can make that? Today, we're diving into that exact mindset, looking at a guy who didn't just build his computer, he 3D printed the whole thing from the ground up. That's a direct quote from Linus Tech Tips. And really, it says it all. This isn't some clunky homemade-looking prototype. We're talking about a seriously polished piece of hardware. So what kind of person even decides to take this on?
Well, meet Nate. His day job is product designer, but his real passion lives in his garage, which, by the way, is a full-blown workshop. And that's really the heart of this story. It's about that builder's mindset, the kind of person who sees a challenge and just has to go for it.
So let's start with project number one, his PC. I mean, most of us would just hop online and buy a case, right? Not Nate. He decided to print one. And this isn't just some empty box. It's the custom-designed home for a pretty beastly machine. And this is where you really see the philosophy of the build. At its core, you've got top-tier, off-the-shelf parts, a killer CPU, super-fast RAM, and a ton of storage. But everything holding it all together, the chassis, the little drive sleds, it's all completely custom. It's this perfect mix of mass-produced power and totally bespoke design. Of course, this is where the real fun begins, because when you design every part yourself, you also get to own every single problem that pops up. And as anyone who makes things will tell you, the journey is never, ever a straight line.
First problem, the motherboard standoffs. See, the case design was based on an older spec, so it had these extra mounting points that his new motherboard didn't need. The result? The board just wouldn't fit. So what was the elegant, high-tech solution? Oh, there wasn't one. It came down to brute force, literally taking cutters and ripping the metal standoffs out of his beautiful, custom-printed plastic. And the hits just kept on coming. The new motherboard was also a tiny bit taller, which meant the liquid cooler suddenly crashed right into the top fans. This is the reality of a custom build, right? It's less about following a manual and more about just constantly thinking on your feet. But okay, a custom PC case is one thing. Nate, well, he was just getting warmed up. His next project scales things up, like way up. He's building a full-sized CNC router from scratch. And this isn't for little hobby projects. This is an industrial-grade machine designed to make high-end furniture. Now, he specifically said he wanted to use this machine as a jointer. For those of us who aren't master woodworkers, a jointer is absolutely essential. It's the tool that takes a rough piece of wood and gives it a perfectly flat surface and a perfect 90-degree edge. It's basically step one for building any quality furniture. And let me tell you, this is no toy. This spindle, that's the motor that does all the cutting, spins at up to 24,000 RPM. It's a 3.2 kilowatt monster, which is basically a 4-horsepower motor. I mean, that's serious professional-grade power, and he's building it in his garage. All right, but not every project is about raw power. This next one is way more personal. It's a custom network-attached storage device, a NAS. Basically, he's building his own private cloud server for a really, really important reason, to keep all of his family photos safe. What I love about this is how smart it is. The brains of the whole thing? It's the old CPU from his previous gaming PC. Talk about recycling. That retired chip is now in charge of 4 huge 8-terabyte drives, and they're set up in something called RAID Z1. The easiest way to think about it is that one of those drives is always acting as a backup. If any single drive fails, poof, no data is lost. And of course, the whole thing is tucked into another custom 3D printed case. But building the hardware is only half the job. You gotta pick the software to run it. He had a choice. Go with something like TrueNAS, which is insanely powerful, but also famous for being a real pain to set up. Or he could go with Hexos, which is designed from the ground up to just be, well, easier. And here's why that choice matters. Nate had actually tried TrueNAS before, and his review was pretty direct. He said, I hated it. It's powerful, for sure, but for a personal project where you just want your family photos to be safe and accessible, user-friendliness won, hands down. So after seeing all this, the custom designs, the problem solving, the sheer amount of work, it all brings us to this one giant flashing question mark. Why? Why go through all this trouble? What's the real motivation here? Let's just ask the question everyone's probably thinking. After all that time, all those parts, all that effort, does doing it yourself actually save you any money?
Neat's answer, especially about that beast of a router, is so refreshingly honest. At the start, he thought he was going to save a ton of money, but now he figures it's probably about the same as buying one, maybe a tiny bit cheaper. And that, right there, is the whole point. It's not really about the money.
And that brings us right back to where we started, with that awesome PC case. When you add up the cost of the filament and the design file he bought, it came out to basically the same price as just buying a nice pre-made case. So if it's not cheaper, then what's the point? And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. If it's not saving you money and it's taking up way more of your time, why do it? The answer has to be in the process itself, in the learning, the problem solving, and the satisfaction of creating something that is uniquely, perfectly yours. Which makes you wonder, for all of us, when is the act of making something so much more valuable than just buying it?